Like Michael said, my name is Bob Escara. I have been with SedonaOffice now for a few months, but I've been working with SedonaOffice since 2001. I ran two separate alarm companies using SedonaOffice. And again, that happened back in 2001. So I've closed the books with SedonaOffice for a lot of months, going 15 years back. That's just a little bit about me. I am a CPA, and I've been a CPA for 25 years, so I'm well experienced on the accounting side. Now, what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to go through, here's the agenda. We'll be talking about the general ledger accounts, how those accounts are set up, what the structure is behind them, as well as we'll be talking about the branches and categories and how those are associated with general ledger accounts. We'll further go into journal entries, how to create those, where to post those, where to make them, in what situation to make those best out of, whether it's through a template or whether it's through Excel. We'll address accounting periods, and we'll also talk about how long it takes you to close your books. I did a little survey a while back, and I'll show you the results of that survey. So you can kind of benchmark yourself and see how long it takes your company to close your books. And then I'll give you some insights on how you might increase or decrease the days it takes to produce your financials. I'll then talk about Sedona financials quickly, but I also want to talk to you about the Vivid piece that we recently put in place in January 2017. It's a very powerful piece of add-on software that helps you produce financials. We will talk here as we go in. So we're going to jump right into it. Now, general ledger accounts, it's really a structure on how transactions run through your trial balance. So I'm a huge believer in a highly structured chart of accounts. So we're looking at a base and how accounts are set up. I consider GL accounts like named buckets. So these buckets are where transactions fall into based on predefined setup tables you create in both the invoicing and job setup and your service levels. So here's a little bit of verbiage about general ledger accounts. I won't talk about everything you see on the screen, but I will talk around it. So this is what your chart of accounts will look like. Here is the segments and lengths. So your GL codes are normally between 3 and 6 digits long. This is the base account that you'll be establishing in Sedona. Now the branch accounts are 2 fixed digits. As you see here on the bottom of your screen, you see the main account, which is the base account, and then the branch at 2 digits and the categories at 3. With the branch categories at 2, you can go from 0 to 99 branches, and for categories, you can go from 999 categories, which you don't really recommend that you use, but that is a possibility. Here is what the structure would look like, and what we recommend your structure as far as the numbering sequence goes in Sedona. Your assets will be set up as 1s, your liabilities 2, and so forth. So in this situation, or in this example, we have 6 digits that we're using here. And we recommend between 5 and 6 digits. It allows for pliability to add accounts add accounts in between accounts if you see there is a need for that. So this is the numbering sequence all the way down to other income in the 7 series with other expenses in the 8. So we recommend your income remain in that 4 series number. So we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail, but here's how the branches works out. Now in this example, we have 2 branches, one in Ohio and one in Michigan, and we named them, or we gave them the numbering sequence of 10 and 20. In this situation, we have 7 categories, and each of these are defined categories: your monitoring, your service, your inspection, installation. So all going down in 100 numeric sequence. So you have your base account structure in this example of 6 digits. You have your branches at 2 digits. Then you have your categories at 3. So here's some examples of what those chart of accounts numbering would look like. Your cash account, if you had a cash account in Michigan, it would start with that 6-digit number you see there in the front of 11000, and then you'd have the branch defined as Michigan, as we've seen in that previous example. Balance sheet accounts do not require categories, but income statement accounts do. So again, your next example here is accounts payable. Accounts payable in Michigan, you have that 6-digit number, and then you have the fact that it's identified as the branch of Michigan accounts payable, and then no category. When you get into monitoring, again, that 400 series, or the 4 series number we talked about, so it's 6 digits, and this is a Michigan account, and this is where all your monitoring would roll into, and the category being monitoring. Now, you will be able to run income statement, a full income statement on this monitoring category. You will be able to run full financials on the branch Michigan. So again, I'll repeat that. So Michigan branch, you'll be able to run full financials on, and within the categories, you'll be able to run P&Ls on. So we recommend the 7 categories that you just saw displayed there were monitoring, service, installation, and you might have some other cost centers, we call them. You might have a bucket for G&A. You might have a bucket for your sales. So you would have those income centers. You can also call them departments. I know QuickBooks calls them departments. We call them categories, but you'll be able to run full P&Ls on those categories. Let's talk about this technician wage, because I want you to understand how this GL account structure is set up. So for technician wages, the 510 for installation and for monitoring. The same goes for salaries down below. You only need one base number, and then the categories will break out the rest. And then naturally, you have your income and loss on the sale of assets here defined, and going to the G&A category, which is essentially a cost center that you might want to then allocate to the other profit centers. So now here's a summary of everything in one window so you can have this. Now this is a deck of slides that you can request from me. I'm going to show you some other Excel spreadsheets you may want to see as well. So if you send me an email, and I'm going to give you my contact information at the end of this webinar, that you can request this information as well as this deck of slides. This webinar will also be posted as well. So if you need some of the verbiage related to that, you'll have that. So here you see in the top left corner, you see the GL structure, the GL base account of 6 digits. You see the branch code at 2 and the category at 3. Now I showed you the Michigan on the top right, which has those 2 digits. You see the categories on the right, which are again those 3-digit numbers. And then in the center left, I showed you how that breakout would be. So these are all the previous screens all in one window, so you have one snapshot view of how the GL structure is set up. And then the examples below that gives you the basic count number, the branch, and the category. So that's how that's defined. There may be some questions on this afterwards, but it's pretty straightforward. Now, I'm a huge fan of having a very structured GL. It's how information flows through to your financials. So having a strong GL structure only leads to a stronger financial statement presentation when we get to that point. So we will talk about that in a second. Right now, we'll go into Sedona to give you an example of what we're talking about here. So now you should be seeing Sedona here. And on the left-hand side of your tree is what we call our main application menu tree. So you'll see all the various pieces and parts to SedonaOffice. Now I have 2 companies open here. I have a demo company and a SedonaOffice company. We don't recommend that you have 2 companies open at one time, but I needed this open for display purposes. We will simply be talking about And not all the pieces of this general ledger we will be discussing, but here's the main general ledger tree. We did mention we would talk about accounting periods. Now, I like this accounting periods because there are some accounting programs out there that allow previous months to remain open, even though it is not the current period. So there is a situation where you might have someone accidentally post a transaction to an already closed period. Not literally closed, but with SedonaOffice, it will allow you to close those periods. So I'm a huge fan of this current accounting period and the ability to close and open any period that you so choose. So I'm going to use this one down here because I want you to see what this looks like. So right now, my current accounting period is set to May. So if I went into produce a comparative income statement, I want you to see what this looks like. And it starts with, or of course, it is using my demo data. So hold on one second here. I wanted to use this. So I'm going to go into general ledger and I'm going to produce a comparative income statement and see how my current accounting period is set to May. So a tip here, if you are one of those people that are closing your month end, you're now in May, and of course it's May 18th, so ideally speaking, April would already be closed. But if I was still working on closing April, and normally I'd be closing April as accountants, and most accountants on this phone call would understand that I'm in the office when everybody else is home. At month end, I'm in here trying to get these books closed, and everybody's already gone home. But what I need to do then, if I'm working on April and not May, I'm going to go into my accounting periods over here, and I'm going to change my accounting period over to April. Now I'm going to make sure my April is open so that when I create that as my current accounting period, even though it is May 18th, I'm going to click Save here. And so when I go over to my reporting and I run my comparative income statement, it's going to start with April, and then it's going to go back 3 months. So when I do my analysis and I do my trend analysis, or I'm analyzing and looking for anomalies, this is a real easy way to go in here and identify your current accounting period, so you can look back and not have to go back here and change this and go up and change it all the 3 months to the period you're looking for. I want to look at April since I'm closing April. I want to look at the previous 3 months to understand what those trends look like. So that's a tip and trick on what you're going to be doing there on how to fix, or actually how to look for anomalies and how to make the system work a little bit more efficiently for you when you're trying to close your books. So that is on the accounting period side. And naturally, when I'm at the end of my day, it's now 9 o'clock and I'm going home because I've closed my month. I'm going to change this back to May. So in the morning when everybody gets here and I show up late because I was up late the night before, I'm going to make sure the current accounting period is set to May. And I might as well close April so that nothing accidentally gets posted into a month that I'm working on. And obviously, you don't want anything posted to previous months, so those would remain closed. So this is a very powerful window. I wouldn't allow too many people access to this window to open or close accounting periods. It's normally the head accountant who takes care of this piece and part. So account register. Again, going straight down the general ledger and what's in this module. The account register is a very powerful piece of the process too. This is where you're going to analyze transactions, and all transactions created within Sedona go to this GL register. Now again, this GL register and these GL accounts, like I explained earlier, are simply buckets where information is being sent or being collected based on how you set your structure up through your invoicing, through your service levels, through your job costing, and through service. So that's how these items will go in here, and you can easily select any one item. And this is the cool part about this. You're going to go into petty cash. I'm going to look at a specific period, and maybe I want to look at, and since I'm still in April and I'm still analyzing, and say, for example, I'm still trying to close my April, I'm going to hit this green button here, and it's going to give me all the activity that happened in that account. Now, one of the cool things about the account register that I can click right down through this and look at the journal entry that created whatever transaction that was. So I can go into a little bit more detail and figure out what that was as I'm doing my analysis. Now we'll go into what it takes to review when you're looking at financials, when you're looking at anomalies, and the process you need to go back through and pick this up. Now, what can happen here is you can also export, if you had much larger data here, you can export this out to Excel. There is that capability. You can simply hit your print preview here, and then you can export this out to Excel in a location you can define. What I suggest on this side is if I'm going to push this out to Excel, I'm then going to locate it into a folder that I've created for the accounting department and for the months that I'm doing. So these are now my years and where I'm putting information for the new paperless society here. I'm in 2017. I'm going to go to April, and I might have folders in my accounting folder for April that have various descriptions. I'll show you here. I have a couple set up for May. So I might have a carry forward schedules that I will bring forward in every single month. I'll have my journal entries folder. I might have miscellaneous items in here in folders where I would be able to put and I might even have a folder called petty cash. So I would export this out to petty cash, and all my information with regard to this would happen and be stored in that one folder. So if I needed to create a journal entry out of that, I have it in Excel. I could then produce a journal entry and copy it directly into SedonaOffice, which I will be showing you here in a few minutes. But that's the power of this account register and how you can export, you can view, you can click through and see. You can actually go through here and change, and I could actually edit a category from this window too. Now this is grayed out because, again, as I mentioned earlier, categories do not really belong with the balance sheet account. So if this is a balance sheet account, so if I change this to an income statement or anything in the income statement, and let me see where I might have information. I might have information here. Let me go back a few, see if I can discover some information, and actually there's nothing there. Anyway, what you can do from that, if you are an income statement account, you can change the category directly from there. So that's the account register. It's pretty powerful. Again, this is where everything resides. Your chart of accounts we talked about, and we talked about that structure. These are 6 digits like we mentioned, and here's your description. And then your account type, which defines where in the balance sheet or income statement those transactions would go. Again, defining the much larger bucket of account types, and within those account types exist your actual chart of accounts. So here you can simply edit. If I clicked on an account and edit, you can edit it from here. You can inactivate it if you have an account that you no longer use but has transactions in it. You can't delete it, but you can inactivate it so it doesn't appear as a selection in anybody's reports. So I'm going to let me just escape out of here and see if it lets me blow out of here. Okay, so here, that's my accounts. And now you're close of fiscal year, which is also in your account tree on the left. Now, this is a pretty powerful checklist as well. SedonaOffice allows 2 years open, allows you to keep 2 years open at any one given time. So since we're in 2017, it'll allow me to keep open 2016. On January 1st, 2018, that'll be 2 years in 1 day. Sedona is going to request that you close 2016. So once you go into this close fiscal year, there's a checklist that you're going to identify and all the things that you need to do before you close a fiscal year. Because once that fiscal year is closed, it's done, you can't access it. So one of the most powerful things in this is this perform database backup, which is key and should be done before you close any year. So this is a pretty powerful checklist. What this will do is it will close everything into retained earnings for your following year, even though SedonaOffice allows that retained earnings to roll forward. I know if there are some accountants in the room, you guys understand what I'm talking about. But this will close out that fiscal year entirely for 2016 and then open up the next year, which would be 2018. Again, 2 years open at any one given time. Deferred revenue, one of the reasons why we came over to SedonaOffice many, many moons ago was its ability to track deferred income. So if I'm billing for an entire year and don't want to recognize that revenue for the entire year, in order to get proper revenue and expense matching, I do that here. So I think here, when I'm looking at my deferred revenue, I am in May now because I've already recognized everything for April. In this database, I'm going to go recognize my May deferred revenue. So I'm going to have that number populate here. Now, this is all the revenue, or 1/12 of it if it was for a year, or 1/3 of it if it was for a quarter. So this is the RMR I'd be recognizing for the month of May. Now, I recommend that your deferred revenue be recognized as early in the month as possible. There will be transactions, of course, in your going operations where you're going to be putting some RMR customers in place mid-month. Now, if you do that, those numbers will appear here. But the reason why I like to post my revenue as early as possible is that if I wanted to look at income statement and I wanted to look at where we're sitting right now, the revenue related to RMR will already be there. Now, there's a couple of different trains of thought here. I'd like to post this at the end of the month. I like to post it at the beginning of the month. So if I ran an income statement and I'm in December 18th, I'm going to see that revenue right now. So I have a comfort level that there's already some revenue on my income statement related to my deferred income. So I'm going to give you a look at what it would look like if I went to post and didn't post May. Of course, I wouldn't be able to close May because it would show me that I need to recognize some deferred revenue. But I'm going to move this over to June just so you can see what the number looks like if I went to post in June. Now, that number will immediately change. And this is a pretty decent number as far as RMR goes. This is obviously a test database, so there's a lot of interesting information in here, but I wanted to see how that progressed. Now, if I recognize deferred revenue for May, this number for June, won't be as large because right now the May and the June number are in here. So once I recognize May, this June number would be decreased. This is actually telling me that you can recognize May and June in June. So something that wouldn't happen, but here's what I would do. So if I went into my accounting periods like I showed you before, and I went in here to close, now I'll be able to close April because all my deferred is recognized. But if I went in to close May, it's going to say, hey, wait a second, you can't do that because you've got deferred revenue. So that's another really cool feature about Sedona. It does remind you about things you should do. So it won't allow me to close May. So if I'm trying to close May, and this should be a part of your standard operating procedures, is you're closing your month after you've done the financials. And if you've forgotten something, it will let you know. So interesting feature there. We'll talk about your GL queries now, which are a really handy way to look at information quicker than your account register. So if there are some accounts that you look at on a routine basis through your account register, and maybe you've assigned an employee to track this one particular GL account, you may want to create a GL query that could pull that information out for that employee. Rather than going to the account register and defining that period, you can do it here. Now, I have created some GL queries just to give you an idea what that looks like. And I think I put it in your accounting. So I'm going to look at this advanced deposit. So this is obviously a liability account on your balance sheet. And if you've assigned someone to put this number together for you on a monthly basis at month end, which is something I'm going to suggest you do if you have the personnel available, to keep track of this account, give me all the information related to it. Let me understand what those transactions are, and ultimately give me a breakdown of what makes up that transaction. I'm going to create a GL query for them. And here's the GL query that you can see here. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. So this is my account. Now, I created this GL query, and there's a bunch of different things you can do to create this query. And if you guys are not using GL queries, this might be a good thing to help you close your books a little faster. A lot less keystrokes and additional information that can get provided from this GL query builder that you really can't get from the account register. So really just a handy way to do that. I'm essentially identifying what I want on the left, what I want to include. It'll be displayed here, and I'm simply double clicking it to get it to where I want it to go on this side. On this middle window is really what I'm using as a selection. So I'm saying, look at this account, and I want you to look at the branch of Michigan, and I want you to look at accounting period 1, and I want you to look at the period of 2016. So once I've identified all my parameters, I'm simply going to hit this green button down here on the bottom, and that's going to automatically populate. It's going to tell you the customer that brought it up based on my selection over here. And the really cool part about this is that I can go from here, and if I wanted to do some additional analysis, and I'm going to say, well, what is this? Why is Mr. Sparkle pay me twice? I can just double click on Mr. Sparkle. It's going to show me that entry and what created it. So this went into undeposited funds and probably got deposited through a bank receipt. So I can have that date and go back and do some additional research if I needed to. If I was in charge of taking this account, that's the process I would go through. I would go through a GL query builder. I've already created this query, and it'd be handy to just pop up real quickly and get the information you need. So query builder, very powerful tool to help close your books in a much quicker fashion. So how am I doing for time? We're still pretty good. All right, so we're going to talk really quick here about journal entries and what works there. Now, I'd planned on going back to the PowerPoint, which I just may do really quickly here, and go where I am supposed to go. And I want to go back to the previous page here, which my mouse is not working. Okay, so here's the journal entries. Now, journal entries, I'm sure everybody on the call has some familiarity with journal entries and how they're processed. They're normal transactions that happen. Now, most transactions through Sedona, even though they're displayed in journal entries in the account register, there are some journal entries that have to happen through the normal business process. I gave you 2 examples here of maybe it's payroll, that you're not importing your payroll in through your payroll service. You're actually exporting that out to Excel, creating a journal entry based on that information, and then copying it and pasting it into SedonaOffice. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, I talked about 2 different ways. The template, there's template journal entries that you can create, and you would use templates and journal entries if they were similar entries every month. Maybe the numbers change slightly, but you will use those journal templates to create those, or you can copy and paste those in from Excel. So there is this other feature, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it is available, and it's the ability to delete a journal entry. Now, I'm a true accountant in the sense that if you create a journal entry and it's not the way it was intended to be, that I see an entry reversing it and then creating it. Now, Sedona does give you the ability to delete a journal entry if it's not something, it wasn't posted. Once you've posted it, you've done the analysis after the posting, and it's not the way you wanted it to be, there is the ability to delete that journal entry, which can be handy, but I'd prefer to see if I saw a journal entry there, it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, you can reverse it and book it the way it needs to happen. But there is this ability, there is a lockdown feature in the user options to not allow this to happen. So I think that can be useful. And the question to the crowd here is, on average, how long does it take your finance team to close your month end? 15 days, 10 days, a week, or less than a week? Now, you can kind of benchmark yourself on this answer, and I thought it was a little bit interesting on the people that I've surveyed. Most companies are closing within 15 days. 15 days, to me, is a lot of days. If I'm not getting information out of my accounting team faster than 15 days, or at least a preliminary or where things are residing at the end of 15 days, that information is too old. But as a true accountant, I like to consider myself a player as opposed to an umpire. So I am going to try to get information out with regard to our previous month as soon after month end as possible. I'm going to show you some different ways to go about doing that with Sedona, with the financials that come out of Sedona, and then additionally with that new Vivid piece that we have that we just put into place, which is a very powerful piece of information. So there's even a small group, they close it within 5 days, but those are smaller companies. But still, I think even with a larger company, if you put some processes in place, like the last statement is said there, is how you get your books closed a lot quicker than they need to be. And here's one way. Now, there's a month-end checklists, and I'm sure that a lot of the people on this call have these checklists throughout your organization for the accounting month-end procedures. I think it's critical, especially if you have, I mean, for one thing, it's a reminder in case you forget to look at something. But on one side, if you have a team, you can assign various tasks to team members. You can actually expand this list to include accounts. So if there's balance sheet accounts, now I'm recommending that you are looking, and like you see here in item 10, you're reconciling bank accounts, but you're also looking at all accounts within the balance sheet. And I'm going to have a schedule for every balance sheet item. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir for most of you guys that are listening to me talk, but you can assign specific accounts to specific team members to have done. You can have this assignment to them. You can have this posted in a location where they can all see it as well as you. And you can have a date you need it completed by, the date they completed it, and possibly even the location of where that file is. But if you have that file structure like we talked about earlier, where you have your accounting folder, and within that accounting folder are years, and within those years are months, you can then drop information on there that everybody or anybody can access, or for that matter, even lock down so only a few people can access. So that is a powerful tool on that side. Now, there are a couple other things that I'm going to be able to provide, and I want you guys to ask for, and you're going to ask me for these through an email, is this month-end checklist that you just saw in front of you. There's a journal entry template that is a powerful tool as well, and I think I'm going to show you that, which is right here. Okay, so here's the journal entry template that we'll provide. Now, this template is a way to access your chart of accounts. This is your chart of accounts, and you could simply then put a number into my template. Actually, this was created by Melissa Robinson. I've tweaked it a little bit, but she was the original preparer of this, and it's a powerful tool to use. If you don't know what your chart of accounts numbers are, you have that listed here on the side. And if I wanted to make adjustment to this account, I can just copy this number into here. And I'm going to paste this. And it's automatically going to come up with my description, which is pretty powerful. Now, if I've done the research and I've exported my account register account with regard to miscellaneous labor here, I might have that as a separate tab to have as my documentation to approve my journal entry. I would put my journal entry number down here, wherever I needed that to go. I might adjust this just so it balances. I'm going to make this 900. I'm going to put a memo in here on what I need it to be and what it's going to post as. I'm going to identify my branch, and I want this to go to Michigan, and I'm going to identify the category that it goes to, miscellaneous labor, and I'm going to want to go here. So now I have this journal entry. I can save this journal entry, but what I'm going to do here is show you how to post this into Sedona directly. I mentioned there's two ways to post journal entries into Sedona. One is through Excel in a copy and paste feature, and the other is through templates. So let me show you how easy that is to do. So I'm going to go into Sedona first. I'm going to have SedonaOffice open, and it has to be open within that journal entry window. So I'm going to go into journal entries. That journal entry window is open. I'm going to go into my spreadsheet that I need to find, which is right here. I'm going to copy this entire journal entry right here. Now, if it included job numbers and job types, I'd be pulling that in as well. But I'm simply going to right mouse click. I'm going to copy. I'm going to go back into Sedona. And I'm going to hit this this button that's right next to this drop-down menu, which is the template menu, which I will be discussing in a second. So I'm just going to click on this, and it's immediately going to drop that journal entry into here in the way I format it. Very powerful tool. Another thing that I suggest you do on this reference is whoever made the journal entry, you have them put their initials in the front of it. And if they're making multiple journal entries in that given month, then you have them number the journal entries that they're creating. So this, for example, I think this is going to be my third journal entry. And then I'm going to identify what I'm doing. It might just be a reclassify. So I have B3, which is Bob Esquera, and this is my third journal entry. I'm going to put this back to April. So now I'm going to save my journal entry in Excel in my month-end folder. So who's ever doing the review of my processes and what my journal entries are and signing off on them, they'll be able to know exactly where that journal entry is. And then in that, so I can just save this. I need to move this over, and I'm just going to say go and save. So I've already reviewed. I'm in April. I'm in the branch of Michigan. I've got my memo, and this balances automatically. So I'm going to say go. So that immediately goes and posts to the GL. Okay, so that's gone. Now that's one way to post transactions in or post journal entries into Sedona from Excel in a copy and paste fashion. And then there's also this template feature over here. Now the template is used for journal entries that are done that are somewhat similar. I'm not sure I would post a payroll journal entry in from a template. I might want to post a payroll journal entry in from Sedona because I more than likely will be exporting my payroll to Sedona and then creating the journal entry, which makes it a lot easier. Might even create a macro from that download from my payroll to get into an entry that makes sense and then copying it and pasting it into Sedona. But here they have a payroll journal entry here set up as a template, so I'm simply going to click on it. Now, obviously, this information would be stale, and if you look at how large this journal entry is why my suggestion would be you're not keying this in directly. This would be copy and pasted, and maybe from a macro in from your payroll agency into Excel. Excel macroed into a journal entry that makes sense and balances, and then dropped into here with branches in the categories identified. So you can post this, or again, you can go into Excel with the same journal entry and with a simple copy and paste into Sedona. So very powerful tool here on the Excel. I think it's pretty quick, and it makes it really simple. And if you have your structure set up within your accounting department where your month folder is identified with all the information you need, I know old-time accountants talk about keeping a binder with all your information in, and paper works too. I'm just a huge fan of no paper. And if you can have that stored in a folder that everybody has access to, or maybe only a few people with limited access to, it might be a useful way to handle and help save a few trees. That's just my thoughts on how to handle that. Now, what I want to talk to you about now is the analysis that would happen when you're going through to close your books and how that's currently done through Sedona. So right now, there is, of course, the account register analysis that you will be doing. But what normally happens, and what I did for the longest time, I'm going to go into this document here, which is my template, and I am running a comparative income statement. So now I'm looking at what it takes to run a financial. So I run this financial, I then do the analysis, identify my anomalies. I either export and run those. I then go to the account register and I look up for those anomalies. Okay, so now in the few minutes that I have left, I really want to show you what can happen with Vivid. Now, I'd like to show you Vivid, and if anybody's interested in seeing Vivid any further, my contact information is going to be at the end of this presentation. And if you have questions, obviously I will address those to the best of my ability. But Vivid is an additional piece that Sedona just put in place. It's a powerful add-on to Excel. So it runs seamlessly into Excel. It's the back end of Sedona. Sedona, obviously, its statements that come out of Sedona are GAAP financials, pretty powerful, but Vivid allows you to adapt financials or create financials or design financials in any way that you see fit. So it's a very powerful tool, and it could, if you have a financial package that goes to a bank and you need it specifically in one direction, you can identify that in Vivid one time, and then it's there once and for all. It has a drill down feature in Sedona. In Vivid, within Excel, you're going to drill down to a transaction. You can drill across on a transaction that's going to allow you to look at trends. There's a couple analyze and compare features within Vivid that are powerful as well. So I'm going to show you that in a second here, but it really helps you close your books quicker. Now, we looked at the other survey on how long it takes you to close your books. This might be a tool, if you're not already using it, as a good way to increase the time needed to process financials. So what I want to show you first is this. So here is Vivid, and Vivid simply is, again, an add-on to your Excel. It will drop in here, it'll have its own tab, and then you have the drill down feature. I want you to look at this financial that you have right here, and this is an income statement by branch. This is created on the fly inside of Vivid. So here you have an income statement by branch. It's October. I've got my branches here. I've got 6 branches here with a total revenue of $2.1 million. Now I can additionally take this and not have it by branch, but maybe I want to look at all branches, but I want to look at all the categories in those branches and which categories are making me the money. So I can go to the next tab that I created, and now I'm looking at that same $2.171 million, but I'm looking at the categories that created those. So I can look at the branch, the number, and then I can look at the category. And additionally, I can look at here, which is I want to look at the categories by one particular branch. So now here's the categories by that branch. Here's the revenue associated with that, just like you're going to find over here in your branch revenue. So this is $362,000. This is branch A. And if I went over into my P&L by branch, I'm going to see my $362,000 right here. So I can look at this number broken out by category individually, or I can look at the categories over all branches, which is a very handy way to look at information. Now, I talked about the drill down, which is another really useful tool. And I'm going to come over here and show you the drill down feature here. So here is a trend analysis. This is my income statement by month listed across, and this is another quick document that I created inside of Vivid that makes it very powerful. I can look at, by clicking on a transaction, I can drill down directly on it and into the transactions that created it. I can even take this down to the document that created that if I scan that document in. So very powerful tool within Vivid. And again, to help you close your financial statements faster than you might not ordinarily do. If I clicked on this account, a really cool feature here is that I can also look at the drill across. So if I looked at the drill across, this is going to give me the trend of that particular account over a period of time. And if you see where these numbers start increasing, and you can see where that happens. So I can look at a trend on any given account. So if I just had one particular month and not the actual trend that I have here, I can click on it and identify anomalies related to trends. So you saw when we were in SedonaOffice, you had those 4 months back to back. Here you're going to have a full year, even though you were just looking at one particular month. So pretty handy tool on the trend. I can also do a drill and compare. So the drill and compare window is just simply looking at a particular column. So I want to compare column D to column E, and it's going to give me what those anomalies are. Now I can additionally click on any one of these items here, and it's going to give me additional information related to it. So if you're in the process of analyzing your financials because you're trying to close your month, this is a quick way to look at information. You can then further export it to Excel and run additional analysis on it, create journal entries from it, and then copy and paste it into Excel. Again, I think not only for the presentation purposes that Vivid gives you the ability to present financials in any way you want. I think one of the larger traits is its ability to allow you to analyze your information and produce financials in a more timely fashion. I think financials that are produced on a timely fashion allows you to make business decisions based on information that's relevant. It's not old information. So again, you're a player in the game as opposed to an umpire making a call. I think Vivid can help you do that. And on top of that, what time are we at now? And I think we are past our time. But I do want to show you guys, first of all, I want to give you my contact information. Now, we did talk about this. We actually got into the system to look at that. But here's my contact information. If you want to see Vivid in a little bit more detail and go over how it could individually work for you, please feel free to shoot me over an email or call me directly. I think Vivid is a powerful tool. If you're not already using it, it could help. If you're using it, I can help you streamline it and even help you write some reports that could be very useful.
So Bob, this is Michael. That was a fantastic presentation. I have a few questions. Is this an okay time to go ahead and ask those?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so going to the accounting periods, there's a status called reopen. Can you explain what that means?
Reopen simply identifies a period that has already been reopened. So you can still, if a period is reopened, it would still allow you to have journal entries applied to it.
Okay.
So Michael, if you want to expand on that anymore.
I'm going to expand on that just a bit.
I thought you would.
So if you could go into SedonaOffice for just a moment and show them the accounting periods. When you set an accounting period to reopen, that's like a super user status. And in your setup for a user, when you give them their permissions of what they can and cannot do, only a user who has permission to create journal entries or invoices can do so with the reopened accounting period. So as Bob mentioned earlier, if you need to go back and reopen a closed period to do an adjusting journal entry or make a change, don't make it into open, because any user then could post to that accounting period. Set it to reopen, and only a controller or a CFO should have this super user access to be able to create transactions with the reopen status. So it's a way to reopen a period for just the controllers and not for the general users. So it's, in this way you can lock down the period so no one can make any other transactions. So that was a great question, and but it's a great feature within the application too. Here's another question, Bob, that came in. Can you run the deferred income more than once?
Yes, absolutely. So you're going to be having transactions processed through your accounting system. I mean, if you ran it at the beginning of the month, you'll have those transactions, and you might be charging customers pro rata for that 1 month period of time. So if you put them in place on the 10th, you're going to be billing them for the remaining of that month, and that will go into the deferred. So you can run it as many times as you'd like.
Okay, great. And it will never recognize the same income more than once, will it?
Absolutely not. So it'll only recognize it one time, and that item will show whatever item you display there. You can actually run a report, and I suggest on that, when you're running deferred, there's an item in here that you're actually posting your deferred item. So if you went in here and you looked at your item over here for May, and again, you were looking at, let me quickly go over to May. Where's May?
At the bottom, there you go.
Yeah, no, that was the wrong month. So that's April. Here's, what the heck is May? May 30th?
That's fine.
Oh, I am it. No, that's right. Okay, so May 30th. Okay, so all right, so here you can hit this, you can actually look at the customers, and you can actually run a report based on those customers. So, and then I suggest you put these customers into your, I get the green button over in the bottom. You can put these customers over here into your, again, your RMR folder. That's in your accounting folder for that particular year and that particular month. So you don't have to print out these pages, but still have that information to refer back to if you needed to.
Right.
Hope that helps.
Also there's another great report, which is the Deferred Revenue Summary Audit, or the Audit Report. I recommend people look at that too. But I'm going to move on to another question. This one was about Vivid. Can I customize the look and layout of my profit and loss reports and balance sheets, cash flow statements using Vivid? So if I have a specific way I want those to look and feel.
Yes, absolutely. So here is an example, which I didn't really get to, of what some financials are look like, and these really apply to how, I mean, they can be designed in any way you see fit. So I'm going to go look at a print preview of this. And here's what this is: a balance sheet, a one-page balance sheet. You look at your cash flow right here, and then you're looking at a condensed income statement. They can be designed in any way you see fit, and only designed one time, and then allow information to flow in here based on some control panels that we can talk about at a later date. So Vivid, extremely powerful tool.
Okay. Well, I'm going to open up just one poll real quick here. So if anybody would like more information on the Vivid CPM, just go ahead and answer one of these questions, either yes, no, maybe later. You can always contact Bob directly. You saw his contact information. Or what you can do is you can if you answer to this, we'll get a hold of you and contact you. Bob, I want to just say that, because I know you're a baseball guy, but you just hit an inside the park home run. That was a fantastic presentation. You threw a lot of information, multiple hours worth in under 50 minutes. So I want to thank you. I want to, if anyone has any questions, please get a hold of Bob or email support. Our next webinar will be in 2 weeks from today. I believe that one's on inspections. Watch for a notice coming out this week. Bob, unless you have anything else to say, I'm just going to say thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Well, I do want to say thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. And again, the general ledger is something we can sit around and talk about for days. So this is a really quick snapshot of a lot of really good information that Sedona can provide. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach me at the number that you see in front of you. Thanks again.
There it is. Okay. Thank you, Bob. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michael.